This is Kyle Greig with Louisville City FC, and this is Steele Some Time.
Hello and welcome to Steele Sometime. Thanks for joining us for Season 3, Episode 5. I'm Kelsey Steele, alongside my co-host, Scott Stewart, ready to dive into another week of USL Championship action. First and foremost, Scott, anything exciting happened for you over the weekend?
Over the weekend?
Yeah.
Over the weekend. Non-USL action?
Yeah, just checking on life, how things are going.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Honeymoon Island Beach out here for the first time out in Dunedin. It's gorgeous. It's unbelievable. So I was able to do that, which I will never complain about going to the beach. And any day you can squeeze in both a beach visit and then catch some USL Championship on a Saturday night. It's just like, wow, weekend made. It's over. I don't need anything else in this life.
Is your name shrined into like one of the seats yet at Owling? Or
oh, for sure, absolutely. I think that I'm more than a season ticket holder in their eyes now. I'm just kind of like a long-standing visitor, like a lingerer. Like they got to kick me out sometimes. But
can you hook me up with that package?
Yeah, it's not even really anything that I can like delegate to somebody. I think it's just like the club just recognized that, they need their most staunch supporters in there. Not that I root for anybody, but
Scott is so great that he gets season tickets without asking. That's where we're at.
That's it. Yeah. No, it was great though. It was a good weekend. A lot of entertaining games, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, obviously you had the chance to catch Miami and Tampa Bay in action over the weekend. We have quite a few headlines from this weekend too that I want to touch on before we start really getting into the meat of the week. I really want to give Brandon Miller over at Charlotte Independence his due and a really nice nod for him. He earned his 40th career shutout this weekend with Charlotte's win over Pittsburgh on Saturday. So just an incredible accomplishment for him. 5 save performance. He's now tied in second place, so he has a chance to creep up on Evan Newton this year. Actually, let's see, that 29 games still remaining in the season, so he just needs 11 more shutouts to become the championship's all-time leader. So, what an achievement that could be for Brandon Miller, who's obviously an incredible person and really active. In the USLBPA and in the Charlotte community as well. So just another nod on his ever-growing resume.
Yeah, huge. And he'll be the first guy to tell you like, hey, we won. That's what I care about more than anything, which is awesome because going to Highmark Stadium and coming away with 3 points in a 1-0 win, like almost everyone who goes there, we expect it to be the opposite. Like Pittsburgh grinds out a 1-0. Charlotte deserved it, though. It was a really, really good game, and Brandon was a huge part of why they were successful on Saturday.
Yep. We'll have to keep an eye on him as he kind of creeps in on that number 1 mark. Again, right behind Evan Newton. So he's really joining some good company. Obviously, Evan Newton over with in the MLS system now. So would be an incredible achievement to see him gain some ground here in the 2021 season. Another big one this week, Scott, the Switchbacks opened their new stadium, and what a beaut she was. Obviously, I know not the result you're hoping for in an inaugural game, but an exciting note, and I think one worth noting, at least in our headline section of the show today, because it's one step forward to getting that soccer-specific stadium across to every market in the USL Championship. So really exciting.
Yeah, a massive step forward for Switchbacks FC and a really, really beautiful venue. When Haji Berry opened the scoring after 2 minutes, I was like, this is it, man. Like, what a dream. And obviously the dream ended a little bit more with a nightmare than the way it began. But for them, I mean, it's cool. We love the Switchbacks. It's awesome that they're able to, have a place that is like brand new and a place where they can attract, thousands of people in the Colorado Springs area. And like you said, another massive step forward for another championship club. This is really just the beginning of the trend. And so to have Switchbacks FC along with the Louisvilles of the world being at the forefront of that, and you've got clubs who have already been at pre-existing stadiums, like San Antonio FC has been there for a while. They're like, hey guys, welcome to the club. But the more the merrier.
Yeah, San Antonio FC really kind of set that tone for the rest of the league, but they're following, and it's nice to kind of make this a monthly conversation, I think, for the pod too, is recognizing it, bringing another stadium in. So really exciting. And I know we're only going to get more and more photography out of that beautiful landscape they have over there. So you'll love to see it, as the kids would say. Let's move into some positive news. The biggest story out of the week, and I think this one's exciting because it kind of came to me. I didn't even have to look for it. So I was back home this weekend in my hometown in Cincinnati, and there was a story running on the local news that just immediately I was like, oh, this is Steele some time. Like we're going to run with this. So as we start to see more states reopen, I think we're all kind of seeing the same pattern right now, where a lot of restaurants are struggling to really get back on their feet and get employees back into working and really run those businesses properly. I know a lot of drive-throughs right now, restaurants are drive-through only right now. A lot of the insides are closed. So up in Findlay, Ohio, 81-year-old Bonnie August recently came out of retirement to help her favorite restaurant, Culver's, stay afloat amid this staff shortage going on right now. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Culver's, they specialize in like burgers and shakes. It is fantastic.
It's the butter burger.
It's Butterburger.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And Bonnie August loved it so much that she did not want to see her hometown Findlay location close. So she, at 81 years old, came out of retirement and is now helping work the drive-through 6 days a week, 4-hour shifts. And hopefully help Culver's open the restaurant for dine-in again. So I just absolutely love this one. It just warmed my heart. One of her quotes in the story said that she just loves the job. She loves getting to come in every day because she gets to meet people and interact with customers on a daily basis. And it's for her favorite restaurant. So she said for her, it was a no-brainer to go in and help the fast food chain. So I just absolutely love this one and had to share. Spread that joy today, Stu.
Dude, that's incredible. That's
Right?
absolutely incredible. And I think we all have that one restaurant that we would do the same for. So now I'm curious, Kelsey, what would that restaurant be for you? Who would you be going in and just being like, I love you so much that I will literally work for you 6 days a week just so you can keep operations up?
Oh my
And if it helps, I can give you some time to think because I know mine immediately.
Okay, go ahead and do yours.
Even though I was like dumbfounded and brokenhearted when I found out that they were a chain, I thought they were an individual restaurant. For the Cheesecake Factory, I would work 7 days a week if I had to, just to keep that place going. So mad respect to the Culvers in Findlay, Ohio.
The Cheesecake Factory is great, Scott, but I can't do the Cheesecake Factory. It is too overwhelming. That menu is a masterpiece. Like that is a work of art. I have a hard time making decisions, as stereotypical females do every now and then. And for the life of me, like I go in there and I'm like, I could eat every single thing on this lunch menu and I would be happy. Like I would be satisfied. They absolutely.
That's the point though, right? Like you literally get to walk into a place and know that regardless of the decision you make, you're not going wrong. Like, wow, that's a dream for me, especially as someone who panic orders.
So mine did come to me, and I know Clay thinks I'm going to go generic here and say Skyline, which
I'd be willing to bank my entire bank account, and the fact that you have to lead in like that makes me so angry.
So yes, I let the record show I would do that for Skyline, but in the last year and a half of my life, have really fallen in love with this restaurant called Osprey Tacos, and it is a one establishment location in St. Augustine, Florida, and I'm not like a taco person. It's not something I crave. These tacos they're tacos by the sense of whatever's in it's held up by a soft shell. That's it. Nothing else qualifies it as a taco. So they've got just the most amazing options in there. They've got one that's filled with Brussels sprouts and balsamic glaze and cojita cheese and pickled onions, and it just absolutely rocks your world. And I would do anything for that restaurant. So I'm with you. And if you guys listening are ever in the Jacksonville, St. Augustine area, highly recommend making the trip to Osprey Tacos. It will change your life. And I'm not trying to be dramatic in saying that it is the one of the greatest things that ever happened to me is Osprey Tacos.
All right, Kelsey, I'll let it slide.
It's a great answer.
It is. It's a great answer.
It is, and it's a perfect segue into the restaurant of the week too, because I decided to choose my own this week based on my USL travels. So, and this one is actually kind of perfect because we're double dipping here, you guys. We've got one restaurant that happens to be both in Charleston, South Carolina, and Birmingham, Alabama. So this one this week is called Rodney Scott's Whole Hog Barbecue. Clay, Scott, either one of you dabbled before? No.
Not yet, but ready to.
Yeah, you had me at barbecue.
Yeah. So Rodney Scott is the co-owner, obviously the name in the restaurant, but he's also a James Beard Award winner. So when Matt Calvo and I went out to Birmingham for their inaugural match, man, that feels like years ago at this point. One of the big pieces in Birmingham was that they had all these James Beard Award winners, and we were so. I should say myself was so surprised because I never knew Birmingham was such a foodie town, and every single place we went was incredible. Like the city of Birmingham can cook, you guys. And this one was no exception. The brisket was incredible. Just one of those like really casual environments too, that makes you like okay with stuffing your face and feeling miserable after you're eating a ton of barbecue. So that's my big one of this week, and it's just those two locations, and they both happen to be in that USL market. So support local and support a James Beard Award winner. They don't give that out to anybody, guys. That's a big deal. So if that's the case, highly recommend, especially if you're a traveling fan for the Legion or the Battery. That's a really good one to check out. I'm
with it. I'm down too. You just like put it on my cal, hook me up with the restaurant invites. I'll be there.
I mean, it doesn't take much to talk you into a good meal stew.
No, it really doesn't. And now that the public knows that, that's a longstanding invitation for anyone listening. Just hit me up. Let me know. I'll be there.
I love it. Let's talk about this past week, you guys. Our weekend review. A lot of notable results, obviously, from this past week. A few big storylines that leads into our interview this week. And I do want to lead off and say that we do have Greig joining us for the show today. Louisville beat San Diego Loyal in their house. Greig obviously comes on to the Louisville roster 2.5 days before he makes his debut and eventually the game winner for that meeting on Saturday as well. So he's got a lot to share with us, and that's a really, really great interview, and encourage all of you to stick around for that one. That being said, Scott, not the only result from this past week. What would you immediately dub your favorite?
I mean, I think that Pittsburgh-Charlotte game was really, really good. And I think it shows that Charlotte is a contender. Like, I think there were a couple question marks when they went out and literally like beat the Battery into a pulp. But I was like, okay, like we've seen good from Charlotte. We've seen mediocre from Charlotte. Like, can they be trusted? I trust Pittsburgh enough to know that I now really trust Charlotte. So I think that was a good one. And I was wrong. El Paso, I was wrong, and I want to come on here and acknowledge that I was wrong, and that 1-0 win over RGV, although we still have questions about RGV in the long run, a great result, and I think I'm probably going to stick with those two, one in the East, one in the West.
RGV's unbeaten streak ends, and you're the first one to toot the horn on the locomotive train, so I know that was not an easy pick for you by any means. I know that one hurt, and all the Locomotive FC fans will forgive you on that one. Maybe we'll let Mark Lowry come on in a few weeks and throw you a little bit of shade. And that being said, RGV's held only 5 shots on goal for a club that's performing really well this year. Where do you stand after seeing that performance with that club? Was that unbeaten streak leading up to this point a fluke, or are they a real deal in the Western Conference?
No, I don't think a fluke, right? Like they played a New Mexico team. Like you could look at it circumstantially and say, okay, well they led the season against a New Mexico team that maybe didn't quite have its bearings together, so they got that result. They beat a San Diego team that has not been the San Diego we expected, so they get that result. Beating San Antonio in week 3, I think, was the one for me where I was like, okay, like this is legit. This makes sense. They're doing more than just carrying momentum. They're going beyond just the circumstantial evidence that we have. I think it's okay to lose to El Paso, right? There's nothing wrong with that. El Paso is going to be a very good team. They're going to be a playoff contender. I think they have a long run ahead of them. But that does mean that obviously I'll be very quick to look at their game against San Antonio this weekend in that rematch to see how San Antonio responds. I mean, San Antonio played very, very well against Birmingham, and it should have been 2-0 if Birmingham didn't sneak in like a 90th minute stoppage time, one to pull one back to save them, or spare San Antonio the clean sheet rather. But then RGV has Miami. So I think the next couple of weeks, I'm really going to be looking at, okay, let's say they get a draw against San Antonio. I care a lot more about the performances than the results because results aren't always everything. And I think that might be what we're looking at for RGV over the first few weeks of the season is, were their performances justifiable enough to call them a contender, or were the results just good enough in those moments? So a couple of things to keep your eyes on as a USL fan over the next couple of weeks.
It's interesting you make that note about the results based on the performance, because we saw a really interesting New Mexico United squad this past weekend. I feel like we saw a club that we've kind of been waiting to see. And for those of you who didn't tune in, Tenari was sent off with a double yellow with 35 minutes to play. New Mexico comes back down 3-1, comes back to win 3-1. And it just, that scenario, that result as a whole just kind of got me thinking, like, is this the difference from previous New Mexico clubs? And I think that's, when we talk about result versus performance, this is something that we haven't seen from New Mexico in years past, to come all the way back and get that result.
Yeah, there is a lot of resiliency about New Mexico. And I think, I'm hesitant to do this so early on, but I think I might have to pull back on my Devin Sandoval Golden Boot prediction, only because New Mexico has so many options. And they showed that this week against Colorado Springs, right? I think a lot could be said about, switchbacks were at 75% capacity. It's a new building. There's a lot of hype. They go up after the second minute. Those are a lot of factors against New Mexico in a game like that. For them to come back to take, they found their equalizer like 6 minutes later. They go into the break, level at 1. They come out, they score, they go ahead. Then they lose Tenari. So 35 minutes, 30 minutes, you're down a man. Colorado Springs looks like they have the momentum. And then literally in stoppage time, they put the bow on the performance with a third goal on the night. Great resiliency shown again for New Mexico. My biggest thing will always be consistency for them. I think that they have the ability to, and they have shown even in past years, they are built with a lot of character, which means that they are always going to fight until the final whistle. Got to see it every single week in order to feel like they're going to actually make a long run. But they were also in my championship final prediction back in March. So I would love to see some resiliency and consistency over the long haul.
Well, and that leads me into my buy or sell. If you're looking at the Western Conference right now and how a lot of these clubs are shaping up, granted, you have clubs like El Paso who've only played 2 games. So I know it's probably still a little too early to kind of get a real shape on that conference. But would you buy or sell that New Mexico United is in the best form out of all Western Conference clubs right now? No,
I think I got it
in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think I got to sell it just because if I don't buy Phoenix, I think that's free money in this situation. I mean, they are just watching them against Las Vegas. It was literally like teams. They looked like they were in an entirely different league than Las Vegas. I mean, they are so fluid in attack. They've got so much free motion. They've got so many options. Like they just come and they set a championship record for most shots and shots on target registered in one game. 41 shots, 20 of them on target, and a 5-goal thriller, or 5-goal performance, 6-goal thriller. Like this Phoenix team, if they're not in the championship final in November, and I know it's early, so I'll not go all the way in, but like, man alive, I have not seen any early season performances this convincing since probably like the FC Cincinnati teams that we thought started out the gate really, really hot and like really established dominance early on.
hear me out though. Is that so much on the performance and the quality of talent from Phoenix, or the opponent they were facing that day?
And that's fair, right? Like Vegas has not been super impressive. San Diego, obviously not super impressive, at least not yet. They do have a big one against Sacramento coming up that we'll want to keep our eyes on. Yeah, that's tough because obviously they didn't get it over the line against the Rowdies, and you would have to say that, like, okay, if you're comparing some of the best teams, that would make sense. They should have gotten it over the line. It might be a little bit too early. I don't know though. I'm still going to buy Phoenix just because I believe, again, when we talk about consistency over the long run, I've got to believe that they're going to be able to get the job done week after week, and I think they're going to continue to prove that they will.
Well, and listen, I think it'd be hard to get anyone to buy consistency over Phoenix. They are the most consistent. I mean, next to Louisville, I think I'd probably buy Louisville before I'd buy Phoenix in that space. But I
or the Rowdies.
Or the Rowdies, yeah. So it's a hard one, but I think when you look at in the grand scope, I need to see maybe some stronger competition. I think with Phoenix to truly get an idea of where they stand. But I mean, you're not wrong. It's hard to come back from a performance like that, a record-setting performance from Phoenix this weekend.
Well, no, and you raise a really good point, right? And it might take some time. If Sacramento doesn't hold their own this weekend and we look at Phoenix and Phoenix blows them away, Phoenix has, I'm looking at it right now, they have San Diego, Tacoma, San Diego before Sacramento again, but that's at the end of June, right? That's a full month away. Phoenix could feasibly, out of those 4 games, if they're able to get it over the line against Sacramento, and Tacoma is still kind of the wild card, but they could easily come away with 12 points ahead of that Sacramento away match on the 26th of June. So I think you're right in saying that we need to see maybe some quality of competition. But for Phoenix, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule. Maybe Charlotte on July 10th. Maybe Oakland gathers enough momentum. They play San Diego so much, and I'm afraid to take San Diego's side in anything right now, that it could be a while before they get a real tough test.
San Diego is burning me at the moment. So really looking forward to seeing kind of how they rebound these next few weeks, not to take away from the absolute banger from Jack Blake this weekend. Obviously quite late in that match, and not something that I know he was super excited about at that point, but not to take away from the incredible finish that it was from Jack Blake, and hopefully something that we're going to be able to see him have more opportunities to do in the coming months.
Yeah, I think San Diego, and I know we're kind of transitioning a little bit, I think San Diego played well against Louisville. They did. I still think Louisville probably the deserved winner as I look at the whole of the match. But I think if you're tracking progression, right, which is what we've heard from Landon Donovan week after week, we want to keep getting better. We want our guys to come back healthier. We want to continue to just put in better performances over time. We are seeing that. The question for San Diego becomes, at what point do you really start saying, unless we win this game, we're not progressing to the level that we want to progress? And I think San Diego has had, schedule-wise, one of, if not the toughest start of any team in the championship so far. Landon Donovan's not going to use that as an excuse, but progress eventually has to be points, because if it's not, then you can talk about getting better all year, but you're going to find yourself out of the playoff picture by June. And that's an ugly place to be for anybody who wants to be a contender.
One of the biggest storylines to come out of this week is that performance by Kyle Greig in that game against San Diego Loyal. Not only does he make that roster this past week, he's eligible for Saturday's game against SD Loyal. We all know what happens from here. He scores that deciding goal in his first appearance for the club. Louisville takes that one 2-1. We're going to hear about that and more from Kyle Greig as he joins us after the break. So stick around and steal some time. We'll be right back. Louisville City FC's Kyle Greig joins us now. Is that going to take some getting used to, Louisville City FC's?
No, I think it's all right. I think it's a familiar team that I've been around for a while, so I think it's got a nice ring to it.
Officially a member of Louisville City FC. Appreciate you taking the time to stop by, steal some time this week, Kyle. And what a wild last year, really, it's been for you. Not really knowing what the future would hold at the end of your season last year. What were your emotions like when a club like Louisville City gives you a call to gauge interest in their push for the season?
Yeah, I think you hinted at it a little bit. Obviously, St. Louis is a place that I spent quite a bit of time, the most time I've spent at a club in my career. And so, for them to go under, really a lot of uncertainty led into the off season. Obviously, I'm a little bit older player. I've got a wife and two little boys, and so that can be kind of tough on you as a free agent sometimes when clubs are kind of adding in those factors. And so 5 months was a long time to really not be hearing too much concrete. And then, that's really trialing for me and my family. And my wife was super supportive. My family was super supportive. And like you said, to hear to get that phone call from Louisville was, much worth the wait.
During that hiatus after St. Louis FC eventually left the league, what did that timeline look like for you? Did you and your family move or get closer to family? What was the focus for you during that time?
Yeah, so big transition. We decided to kind of uproot St. Louis, move out of our house, go back to Kansas City for what we thought was going to be, a month or two, which our in-laws were happy to host us. And then, like I said, it was way longer than anticipated, but to have those loved ones and the support around you from loved ones was what got us through it. And so, yeah, we moved back to Kansas City where both my wife and I are from. And so to have both of our families there and to be in, like, looking back now, being able to have our little boys, close to their cousins and both sets of grandparents was really awesome. And that's time that we really wouldn't have in a normal off season.
We talked to Paco Greig a few weeks ago on the show, and he had somewhat of a similar story, but I think the big thing that came out of that conversation was how much perspective he got out of the last year and how that the circumstances weren't necessarily ideal, but now looking at it, he had this time with his family that he never would have had before. And I feel like I'm getting those same sentiments from you, experiencing it might not be, what you necessarily were expecting after that year with St. Louis FC, but in return, in a great position now and had, a few really great months with family.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely 100% the time that I would never normally get. So it's always tough when you're in it and when you're in the thick of it and the mental game that you have to play, staying motivated. And I definitely question myself a lot, question my ability. And it's hard when, the phone's not picking up, the phone calls aren't coming in and things like that. But again, really relishing in the time. And then I also spent a lot of time kind of looking forward to what's next, and did a lot of digging at what I might be interested after I'm playing. You can say I'm on the back end of my career, but tried to utilize the time to one, enjoy the family, and two, prepare for what's next. And then the phone call came, and I was ready for it.
I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here because you're nowhere near what's next, Kyle. If this past weekend tells us anything, that's not coming anytime soon. But do you see yourself kind of staying in that soccer space when the time does eventually come?
Yeah. Yes and no. I think I'm open to whatever. I could see myself just completely disconnecting from the game just because my family is a huge priority for me, and they've sacrificed their weekends and sometimes their evenings for long enough. And so especially when the boys and the kids start school and things like that, I don't want to, a lot of soccer is evenings and weekends, and so I want to be able to save that time hopefully for them. But again, I never know what opportunities might present themselves in the future, whether it's in the game or outside of it.
Open. I love that. And obviously we're not looking there just yet. A big weekend for you. And I think it's a unique situation too, because you're not coming in the middle of the season by any means, but also not necessarily the beginning either. Most guys get that preseason feel, to get to know the guys, get to know the squad and really jump right in. But you get that winner against San Diego. How difficult is it as a player to come in to such a tight-knit locker room? I think if there's maybe one storyline that comes out of Louisville City, that is that locker room, and make an immediate impact.
Yeah, the guys have been super welcoming. It's a very mature group, and so to be able to have that transition where you don't feel like there's a initiation period or whatever it may be into the group. I feel like I know a lot of the guys from playing against them. I've played with some and communicated with a lot of the guys in years past. So as far as being welcome in the locker room, that made the transition super easy. And yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to come off the bench as a sub, but to come off the bench when you haven't been in a soccer environment for more than 3 days was tough. I told Simon, the assistant coach, after the game, that was like the longest 14 minutes of my life. Like, I felt like I worked extremely hard in the off season. For my extended off season of 5 months, I was working with, a good trainer there and doing whatever I can to stay fit. But there's always going to be that adjustment from, working out and doing soccer specific stuff on your own to actually being in the soccer environment itself. And so to be able to get inserted and kind of not have that build of a preseason was definitely difficult. But I'm getting my feet wet. I'm getting things under me and getting kind of that preseason feel to it. But the staff's done a really good job here of not, putting me in a position to become injured or anything like that.
It's interesting because I feel like in the off season or your situation, an extended off season, all you're doing is training for that moment to get the call. So you get that call, and 2 to 3 days after publicly being on the roster, you come in, you score the winner in front of that crowd at Lynn Family Stadium. What was that feeling like for you?
Yeah, it was incredible. Just the off season I had was very tough mentally for me and my family. And funny enough, 2 weeks from yesterday, my wife and I had a conversation with my agent and came up with a date. And that date was July 5th. We came up with a date. If I did not have a team by July 5th, I was done. And that was a Monday. And Wednesday was the first point of contact, kind of that got this ball rolling. And then within, 4 to 5 days, it was all done and I was moved here. And so I'm a spiritual man. And so for me to be able to kind of, it's hard as a man to not want to control everything. And I think for me, being able to just like lift that up to God and put my trust in him really kind of like spitball this whole thing. And so to kind of, really give it up, I think was a big moment for us to say, hey, look, take it or leave it. If I have a team by July 5th, then great. If I don't, then I have to be okay with moving on from the game, just because it wasn't fair. Wasn't fair to my wife and the kids and stuff. I think that hard date had to kind of be set, and here we are.
Wow. Well, I'm glad it wasn't May 5th, because that would have been an entirely different scenario for you and Louisville City FC. You have to think, I think when we rewatch that tape from Saturday night, you can see that pure joy on your face as you're going into that celebratory run. In that moment, was there a sense of relief? What was kind of going through your head?
Yeah, relief. Just that all my hard work and perseverance and faith had paid off, and yeah, huge weight off my shoulders, and just to be able to do it in front of, a great, fantastic crowd was super memorable for me. And then Benji, our kit guy here, just told me before I came up for the interview here that he's got my game ball for me. So
Awesome.
it's gonna go in the trophy case for sure. Memorable moment.
How are you liking the new digs? Lynn Family
My
Stadium,
gosh.
the view,
Can I
right?
show you? Can I show you real quick?
Jeez.
This is my view right now up in the press box. So, obviously a lot of good clubs, but this is top. And to be able to, call this home, and, the training facility will be done hopefully shortly. And just, everything here is great. And the club's doing a really good job of taking care of all the players, and then especially, the staff, Danny for bringing me in and sorting me out, so that, like I said, it was a very quick transition from coming in and then being involved. And so to have all the housing and stuff like that sorted, just to be able to put that aside and just focus on integrating myself into the group was a pretty seamless transition.
I mean, especially having a family too. There's so many other items at play there to make a move in 4 to 5 days. So that's really impressive. And now, you're in this place here at Lynn Family Stadium. You have that scenario that happened this weekend, and here you are at number 5, just 8 goals away from Chandler Hoffman at the all-time goal scorer list in the championship. What does it mean to you to be in the ranks of guys of the likes like Dane Kelly, Chandler Hoffman?
Yeah, it's a huge honor. I've been in the league for a while now, and I feel like that's something I'd actually didn't stumble upon until just, probably midway through last year, was like, I wonder where I sit on the all-time ranks. And so I feel like, that's a good group of players right there. And, guys who have put a lot of work in and scored a lot of goals, guys that I look up to and respect a lot. And so to be amongst those people, I've played against and with some Corey Herzog's up there. And so, awesome group of players. And again, my focus, first and foremost, the type of person I am, is to focus on the result for the team, and that the goals will come, and, really doing the dirty work and things like that. And then knowing that, if I do those things, then the goals will come is my focus. Obviously I'm hungry to score now that I got a taste of it, especially here at the stadium. But again, I'm very, results first and the goals will come type of player. And so hopefully many more to come on the winning side and goals.
Those both worked itself out this weekend, and you've had the benefit of having a successful career. You speak about, many different places you've been in and around. Grew up in Kansas City. You've had a lot of time, I think, in the Midwest and the Heartland, and then of course, 3 great years in St. Louis, now in Louisville. Do you think there's a sort of comfort or familiarity that comes with where you are now, and at least in that region?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a drivable distance for family. It was a drivable distance for me, and then my wife and boys will join me this weekend. And to, like you said, kind of have that familiarity. I was in Cincy for 4 months, and which is down the road here, and so to kind of understand this area, some of the grocery stores, things like that, makes it easy. And then being able to know that you're not too far away from family. If I was picking up and going, to California or the other coast or whatever it may be, it'd be a bigger move, I guess you could say, and really require, flights and things like that for the family to visit. But yeah, being able to kind of be in this central-ish area of the country is pretty good.
Kyle, congrats on a fantastic week. Really, really looking forward to seeing what's to come in 2021 for you and your family. Congratulations on all that hard work paying off. I know it feels like such a waiting game at times, and there's nothing better than that faith pulling through. So really, really excited for you. And again, thanks for stopping by. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have a first-time guest on the show.
There you go. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and good to talk to you. And yeah, nice to meet you, and thanks for the well wishes.
Appreciate it. Welcome back into Steele Sometime. I'm Kelsey Steele, joined by Scott Stewart, ready to get into our social moment of the week. This one comes out of Louisville. Shockingly, Jonathan Gomez called up to the Mexican national team. An incredible feat. 17-year-old left back for Lou City. He is headed to start training for the CONCACAF Nation League games. So that's really exciting at 17 years old. And what's interesting too about this, Scott, is he still has the ability to choose to play for the U.S. men's national team. Granted, I believe he can't play more than 3 games, correct?
Yeah. So just look up the hashtag dual national panic on Twitter. Because this is like one of the cool things about this. I love this. When this came through, I got a call about this last week that he was coming up. And so Mexico's bringing 2 squads. They're bringing a senior side, and then they're bringing a U20 side. And so Jonathan is going to train with the U20 side and potentially work into that environment with the senior side. Who knows? I think this just adds more fuel to the fire of the U.S.-Mexico classic debate. Very similar turf. They're fighting for a lot of the same players. It's something to keep your eye on. But overall, wearing my USL hat for sure, congrats, Jogo. Like what an achievement, and what an opportunity for somebody who has such a bright future ahead of him.
17 years old and was named man of the match in Lou City's game against Birmingham on May 8th. An incredible feat, and maybe in the next year or so, maybe making a pretty big decision on who he truly wants to represent as he turns 18. So a lot of exciting times coming out of there for Jonathan Gomez, and again, well deserved. So great shot.
Yeah, he's got he has red and white for sure. Is it blue or green? It's up to him.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Let's look ahead, shall we? 15 games upcoming this week, and a few notable matchups. But first and foremost, Stu, which game out of that 15 has your eye?
I mean, This might come a little bit out of left field, but I'm still pretty comfortable with it. There are these two teams in a certain Midwest region, Louisville and Indy, that have had some history in the past. So I think I will probably have my eyes on Lipa FC, whatever iteration this is, 15, 20, 230, whatever the fans say. No, seriously, I think it'll be great. I think Indy showed a little bit more of who they want to be against Sporting Kansas City 2 over the weekend. We know Louisville and very much who they are. So I'm ready. I'm ready to see these two teams meet for the first time this year.
Would you be open to the name of the rivalry changing?
I don't know
about that.
I don't know. I'm a firm believer that fans should be the ones who determine the name. And I know that it was more of a collaboration between the supporters groups rather than like an overarching fan standpoint. But I think if the fans want it to be that, then it should be that. I think the same thing against, you look at LA Galaxy 2 and LAFC in MLS. El Tráfico is what the fans wanted. I think it's perfect. I think it fits very, very well. I think the Lipa FC is a little tough to roll off the tongue. It isn't quite as catchy as some of the others, but I don't know if Louisville and Indy are either super catchy in terms of who they are. So I'd say stick with it, unless the public decides differently.
Let the public decide. All right. They're one of a few rivalry games this week. We also have San Antonio and RGV facing off this week. So seeing how RGV will rebound from that unbeaten streak, I think that'll be a good test against a San Diego squad that's always competitive in this space. But obviously they have that nice rivalry there in Texas. So it's always one that we have our eyes on year in and year out.
Yeah, I think San Antonio RGV is going to be good. Sacramento Phoenix, which we kind of touched on a little bit earlier in the pod, has a lot of potential. Weirdly enough, maybe one of the most interesting cross-conference games on Sunday, SKC2 against El Paso. Like,
great.
I don't even know what to say about that. That feels like Uno, and I just keep getting the wild card over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I think across the slate, there's a lot to look forward to. Weirdly enough, like Atlanta United 2 against Birmingham, two really strong sides. Atlanta United 2 putting a beat down on Tulsa. I think that one's attractive. Yeah, no shortage again this week for sure.
There were a few this week that I was like, this just looks so weird. Like Hartford and the Monarchs side by side. Like this doesn't look right. Like something's wrong here. That interconference play is just still going to take some getting used to for us. Not complaining. It's just not what we're used to out here.
Yeah, 100%. But again, I think that's part of what we talked about. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that's what makes interleague play so unique. Like in what other season would we see Sporting Kansas City 2 host El Paso or Hartford host Monarchs? Like it's some variety. It's unique. It's different. And I think we'll all be watching at least one of these games for sure.
On Friday night, we have a matchup between New York Red Bulls 2 and Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So we talked a little bit about Pitt earlier in the show, but they're going to be my buy or sell this week because Pitt's been struggling as of late, winless in their last 3 games. I believe they haven't won since the first week in May 1st, I believe. Are you going to buy or sell that club will turn it around against New York Red Bulls 2 on Friday?
Yeah, tough, right? Because Red Bulls 2 have actually been pretty decent. They haven't been shining necessarily, but I think they've proven multiple times that they are more legit than not. Like they got a nice 3 points against Loudoun. We don't quite know enough about Charleston to make a solid prediction, but even a 2-2 against Charleston is good enough. I don't know. I would like to think that Pittsburgh would be able to go to MSU Soccer Park and make a statement. I think they've got the advantage of having Red Bulls 2 and then Loudoun in back-to-back weeks. So maybe this could be like if they can get a couple of good results before they host Austin, they might feel confident. But these would be the 2 weeks. Of any 2 weeks that I would look at Pittsburgh's schedule, I would say this is your time to go out and do it. If they don't, they run into a very difficult stretch of hosting Austin, hosting Miami, and then away trips consecutively to Indy and Tampa Bay. So take momentum while you can.
So are you buying it?
I'll buy it. I'll say Lily's side is able to squeak out a 1-0. Maybe Chicharone gets on the score sheet and they keep it tight.
Okay. I honestly thought you were going to skirt around that, and I think you tried.
I did. I tried. But hey, this is why you call me out. You put me on the spot. You say, hey, we're going to redirect you a little bit and you're going to answer the question that was put in front of you, which I will. And I think one thing we know about Bob Lilly's teams are they're incredibly disciplined, and he is not somebody who will settle for average performances in the long run. So I think maybe a swift kick in the behind, and we'll see what happens against New York.
We'll see what happens. 15 games coming our way this week. Before we get out of here, Clay Benjamin's got the question of the week for us. Clay, have at it.
All right. Since it's my first time doing the question of the week, I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended and make it easier on you guys, because my job here is to make your lives easier.
Yes.
Thank you. Already so much better than that.
Now, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I was watching Phil win the PGA Championship on Sunday, and just like seeing the crowds back and like seeing just how hype everyone was, it's got me so excited, because it seems like, the world's opening back up. We're getting fans back into venues, and this summer, which was supposed to be last summer, we're just going to get so many great sporting events this summer. So my question for you guys is, what non-USL sporting event are you looking forward to most? It can be anything. Like Scott, I know you're the Indiana homeboy. Indy 500s this weekend. Champions League finals on Saturday. I'm a little biased there. We got, Kelsey, Wimbledon late in the summer, and then the US Open. The Olympics, Conor McGregor.
I'll take this first. I love me some Wimbledon. It's the easy choice for me. Everyone knows I'm going to choose that. So as excited as I am for that, I'm really looking forward to the gymnastics portion of the Summer Olympics. Obviously, I can't wait to see the women's national team playing. That's without question. But there's something special, I think, about the gymnastics side. It's not something that you really see a lot of in year round, it's not, super public, but Simone Biles is making another run again, which is super exciting coming out of retirement. So I just think that it's just one of my favorite events to watch. And I did gymnastics for a long time. So it's just, that one's easy. At first I wasn't sure if you were going to make this sport related or non-sport related. So I wanted to throw an honorable mention in there for concerts, because I'm just really
that's a good shout.
Really excited to go to a summer concert. And I'd be content with like 100 people in like a honky tonk, like listening to someone on the guitar. Like I'm cool with that at this point, but those would be my top two.
Any concert in particular, or just any concert at this point? It's been so long. You just I just need a concert.
Yeah, I think at this point, just a concert. I'm pretty open. T Swift, if she launches a tour, she drops 15 albums this past year, so she's got a lot of music to play, which I could totally get on board with.
Good.
That's actually a good shout. I didn't even think concert. It's a great idea.
Bringing something to the table for you guys.
No, it's good. It's good. It's solid. I think the Rowdies play a lot this summer, so I think I'm
obviously
kidding.
every home game at Outlang. Does that count? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I think for me, probably the Euros, just because I love large international tournaments, and I think not being able to experience that last year was just a bummer. I think that's something that for somebody who lives and dies by the 2-year soccer cycle of Euros, World Cup, we got robbed of that. So I'll say joint, and of course it's both of them are soccer, so super shocker. I just don't think I'm going to be as entertained by the NBA finals this year. So Euros and Gold Cup, because we have a lot of championship players who are going to be represented at the Gold Cup, and I think it'll be a cool opportunity to see how we've continued to progress and how they can help their national teams. And then one of the biggest tournaments that the game of soccer has available to us in the Euros.
That's great answer.
You didn't say the Olympics, Scott.
I love the Olympics so much. I think it has lost a little bit of its fanfare for me over the last couple of years. I think that's just because attention gets divided so much between so many different things. But I will say I'm a much bigger Summer Olympics guy than a Winter Olympics guy. So don't think I won't be watching in the spirit of sport and competition.
But I feel like after being delayed for a year, people are just so excited, and just something for us to look forward to at this point too. So, great question, Clay.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. Like, there's so much events going on in a span of like weeks. Like, you got the CONCACAF Nations League, like the semifinals coming back, and then you got the Gold Cup, and then you have Euros, and then the Olympics, and then next thing you know, it's 2022.
It's Christmas, and we
We're gonna watch it.
Yeah. So many events, so little time, kind of thing.
I'm here for it, and we've been waiting long enough for it too. So, great. Love the shout, Scott, Clay. Appreciate it, guys. Week 6 begins this Wednesday with Birmingham Legion FC and OKC Energy FC. They're kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then the slate follows, and let it begin. So don't forget to tune in to ESPN Plus for all of this week's action. Until then, we will catch you guys next week.